got two daughters, both still in the UK, and a grandson. One of them is an ITU nurse in a baby care unit. I've not seen both my daughters or the grandson, same me and my wife, since March. We've spoken to them on the phone and that sort of thing as well. We both watched last night. We watched the story develop over the weekend. And it was a kick in the teeth. Johnson kicked the country in the teeth, and I think he's asking you to pick the teeth up as well. We haven't seen our daughter, who is my daughter, is on the front line with PPE dated 2012. Right? 2012. She's had there with babies dying, where they've had to tell one parent, stay at home. Don't come in and see them. That's not just about me, okay? We go and see them a couple of times a month. But it's absolutely shocking. And he stood there last night. We watched it on the TV. And you're thinking, what? All the sacrifices people have made. We've had her on the phone, Dad. We've had people doing this. We've had people who've had to go home and their babies are dying. One can come in. They can't go to the funerals that they've got for them, or they can't have the mummy. They're going to choose what parent's going to go, what grandparent's going to go. Yes. And now we've got this. She said last night after she phoned us, now amongst their staff, they've got this. She said, Dad, it's not if we walk, it's when.
Oh, please,
that's what this government has done. That's what this government has done. How much do you take?
I don't know, mate.
They're not kicking you in the face. They're grounding your face into the dirt. That's what they've done. It's not just he stood there and he's been a big bluff. We've all seen him for years. When I was in London, I remember at the Tottenham Rights, when May was Prime Minister, he stood up and he was Mayor of London. Someone shouted and he stood behind a skirt. That's the man. The man who's Prime Minister will stand behind the skirts of a woman. And everyone's asking, I'm an ordinary guy from London, and the first thing you answer was, why is he supporting like Cummings? Probably how many people last night on TV said, what's the photos Cummings got? What's the emails Cummings got?
Well, I don't think there is. I think it is more. It's more likely to be that his skills, such as they are, his dark arts, are integral to Boris Johnson's survival, because he can't be desperate to hang on to him because he's played some sort of blinder in the COVID-19 crisis, as your daughters will know better than almost anybody else. As a dad, because I know that's the line you've come in on, and I completely understand why. Can I level with you, Gary? I do this for a living. Yep. You probably know that. And I shoot my mouth off left, right and centre. I'm never backwards in coming forwards. Occasionally there are a couple of things at 5 to 10 in the morning that leave me wondering whether I'll actually be able to mention them on air without either getting very upset or going nuts. And you've already done it. It's the line about any father would have done what he did. The line that has told people up and down the country that if they didn't break the rules, then they somehow don't love their families as much as Dominic Cummings loves his. And that is beyond adding insult to injury. That is, well, I'll go with your line about teeth. That is like kicking us in the teeth and then asking us to sweep them up. That line right there. And that's what Cummings does. He tries to find those clever little cut-throughs, as they call them, those clever little... And obviously going for the family man line is the tactic. Well, let's cast me, because he'll be pulling all the strings on this, and let's cast me as the family man. And if anybody says to him, the British public won't swallow that, Dominic Cummings reminds them what he has persuaded the British public to swallow over the last 5 years.
It's absolutely disgusting that Dominic Cummings was willing to throw his own child under a bus, use his own child as an attempt to defend his position, the fact that he broke the rules. Now let's be very clear about this. He broke the rules. The rules were that you were to stay at home, not leave your home, not get in the car and drive 260 miles to another place. You're to stay at home. You're not to go out and meet other people. Boris Johnson had mentioned this a number of times. He said, do not meet other people. If they ask you to meet, say no. Do not go for a drive. Do not go for a walk. This was at the time, at the beginning of the lockdown. Boris Johnson had said this a number of times. It was an unusual Boris Johnson press conference, a very serious one. And he had said it a number of times, stay at home. That was the mantra. That was the message that Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings had come up with together. Or at least he had some part in it. He was very good at inventing slogans for Boris Johnson. And he broke the rules. Now, of course, he's saying, I did what any parent would have done. But the problem was that it was not your child that was sick. It was you that was sick. Under a circumstance, if your child was sick, then we could understand that. We could understand a concerned parent saying, my child is sick, I want to take it to a safe place, or I want to take that child to the hospital because I'm worried for its safety. But that was not the case. You were the one who was sick. You should have stayed in your home. You didn't. You got in your car, you drove to Durham, and then you weren't satisfied by just doing that. After a while, you decided to go for another drive, but in this case, to test your bloody eyesight. This is unbelievable. You know, if somebody has problems with their eyesight, if I have problems with my eyesight, what do? I take a piece of paper with some words on it, I hold it at arm's length and see, can I read it? Under normal circumstances, I can read it. Can I read it under these circumstances? I ask somebody to hold up a piece of paper from 1 meter away or 2 meters away and see if I can still read the text on that piece of paper. I don't get in a car and drive for half an hour, which is exactly what he did. And he didn't even just do that. He said that his wife had suggested it. His wife said, why don't you go for a drive in the car? We'll go in the car together with our child for half an hour down the road to a castle. This is beyond obscene. This is beyond insane. Who, in their right mind, who claims to have problems with their vision because of this virus, gets in a car and drives down the road? This is what Dominic Cummings had said. All of this is an attempt to defend Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson from a future inquiry surrounding how the government and members of the government dealt with this coronavirus outbreak. So in the future, in a number of years from now, we're going to see a public inquiry. I hope that's going to be the case, but it probably will be, because this virus has upended British society. So a public inquiry will eventually arrive. And people like Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson will be dragged in front of it, and they will be asked very difficult questions. And now they are preparing for that eventual scenario. So, of course, they're not going to say, I made a mistake or I did something wrong, because that would be used against them later in an inquiry. Dominic Cummings is not a reasonable person. A reasonable person would say, look, I broke the rules, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, and they would resign. We have seen other people do the same thing. For example, in Scotland, there was a medical expert who, during the lockdown, decided to go and visit a second home. She eventually resigned. She understood that it was not acceptable for her to remain in her position. Not because so much, I think, because she broke the rules, but because of her breaking the rules, it would be extremely damaging for public confidence, because you need the public on your side in order to protect the NHS, to stay at home, or to maintain social distancing. So you need the public on your side. If public officials, medical experts, politicians break the rules, then the public naturally will say, why is there a rule for the public and why is there a rule for politicians? And we won't have an answer for that. We'll have to admit that, yes, politicians are beyond the rules, therefore undermining public confidence. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks. Why not become a Patreon and enjoy access to our Discord server where we share news, chat, and have some fun? If you become a patron, you can also make video suggestions on topics that are important to you. Check it out via the link in the description.